Less money, more problems. That's what the Democrats are dealing with, as cash on hand is running pretty low, well behind that of the GOP. Donors see the party splitting apart in front of their own eyes. They have no leader, no message, no direction, except maybe socialism, quasi-communism. It's keeping donors on the sidelines and their wallets, well, closed tightly shut. Turns out socialism doesn't really sell to the people with the money, and the DNC is still paying off the debt from Kamala Harris's disastrous campaign. They just shelled out $1.6 million in September, bringing the total payout to that campaign to more than $20 million so far. The numbers, here are the numbers: $86 million in cash for the Republican National Committee compared to 12 for the Democrats. The most recent haul for the month was $10.7 million for the RNC, $10.3 million for the DNC. And I will shut up, but I have to say this. The DNC reached out to big donors to host a San Francisco area fundraiser headlined by candidate, former VP Kamala Harris. Most of the donors rejected the request.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's what a winning pitch, though. Come see the failed Democratic candidate again so she can embarrass herself again. Yeah, no, I mean, the fact is there's a battle royale going on right now between the Democratic establishment and the progressive new upstarts. And you can understand why donors are confused. Who do we give our money to? Who do we support? Because the Democratic leadership has been very schizophrenic themselves about who to pass the baton to, who to give the blessing to. A microcosm of this is in Maine in the Senate race, where the governor, Janet Mills, is running to replace Susan Collins, a very normal, independent thinking, sort of moderate in the state. And Schumer's backing Janet Mills, and Bernie Sanders, the socialist, is backing this progressive new guy who has a very left record, and he also was recently accused of having a Nazi insignia for a tattoo. So this is the utter state of the Democratic Party. And as a donor, I think most donors are not dumb. They know.
Also lack of having somebody better to put forward than Kamala Harris, who lost the election. And one of the times that Kevin O'Leary was here, we were talking about Kamala and her book and how she lit some matches, blew things up on fire, and created a bad situation. Kevin's point was that the donors are not going to come back for that. That is not a good look for the Democrat Party. And I said, well, why is she doing that then? And he said, to sell books.
Is there a silver lining in this for Democrats, though, that their donors are not chucking money after just anybody? Like they're becoming more discerning.
Selective.
So they're saying, we have nobody to back. Therefore, we're not going to back anybody until somebody emerges who we think we can back. I mean, comparing it to like the $1 billion they spent on Kamala Harris, which was like lighting stuff on fire, basically. Not a good thing to do.
But these donors actually do have money to burn.
Right.
But they're not burning it. That's
which
probably
means it's a confidence gap, not a cash gap, right?
Right,
They have
but
no
I
confidence,
don't,
so they're not voting with their dollars.
I don't know how not depriving these losers of funds converts anyone to being a winner. Does that make sense?
Well, but it forces new candidates, though, right? I think Brian's point is that if you starve them out from the cash side, then you're forced to elect new candidates and or put up new candidates that actually can instill confidence in the donor base to give money. I mean, Wall Street is not going to give money to socialists. 57% of donations from Wall Street go to Democrats.
The donor class is absolutely the worst group of people, left, right, and center, at picking candidates. Look at President Trump and how he was able to win 2 presidential elections with a fundraising disadvantage. I have sat at tables with big money people, like once in a eon, I will be at like some fundraiser, and they are terrible at picking candidates. They will get in the face of just nobodies and tell them, you're going to be the next president of the United States, and here I'm going to give you all this money. And you have to disabuse them of that. I'm like, you literally are throwing money at someone who has no ground game and are terrible retail politicians.
I mean, that may be the case, but if you think Democrats have no leaders, you're probably happy that somebody's not funding a non-leader to the point where they're going to get on a ticket and run and lose, right? Yeah. Don't you want it? So, I mean, I'm not cheering for them to get this right. I'm just saying they lit a lot of money on fire for Kamala Harris, and maybe they got burned, at least temporarily.
I think it's just telling that they're holding back because there's a lot of, let's use the investing analogy. There's a lot of good money that gets thrown after bad investments, and because people have it, it's at their disposal. You're seeing donors that have money that have been historically contributing to these campaigns that are holding it back. That's more telling than anything.
But they want to win. They want to win so that they have power because they were the one that backed the candidate. If you have a track record of losing, that's just setting money on fire.
But to Dagan's point,
no one wants to do that.
That's true. But I think you're right about, like, for instance, Zohran Mamdani in New York City. He's gotten plenty of money, don't get me wrong, but he also is very creative and kind of innovated his way out of maybe maybe he didn't get the most funding he wanted. So instead, he just did Soviet-era graphic design that Gen Z kids really loved, and it went viral, and now he's doing man-on-the-street interviews. All of that is pretty low cost, and it hit a lot of hearts and minds.
Yeah, and he got a lot of money from outside of New York City. So there are people around the country willing to send money to somebody when they think they're not a loser candidate. I mean, if you like left-wing causes, he's the guy who does left-wing better than anybody else. You sent them money.
Yeah.
You mentioned Plattner with the oopsie, I accidentally got a Nazi tattoo when I was in the military. And then Mills, who was tooth and nail fighting to make sure that girls had to compete against boys in sport.
That's right.
So those are Democrats. And then you've got Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger, whose charisma is this. They horrible when communicating anything when pressed. So if you go spend your money.
They're not sending their best. They're not sending their best,
right.
as Trump says.
I mean, at least Kamala laughs, sort of.
That's cackling.
Cackling, yeah, that's
Yeah.
not
A little different.